you can be disabled and still work as a physician doing different things. Certain policy says you can do other occupations where you still use your talents and it will not offset the disability payment to you. So
Wow.
these are things you don't think about till you meet the right advisors who tell you this and say, this is what we're going to do because I've done this before and I'm an advocate for you.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Real Estate Investor MBA. My name is Tejas Gosai, and I've had the honor of helping hundreds of investors achieve the American dream by creating generational wealth through real estate. I've spent the past few years interviewing the most knowledgeable experts I could find in the business to cut your learning time and conquer the hardest subjects in the game. Check out rei.mba, which my team and I have packed with over 75 interviews and free access to our real estate roadmap, webinars, and publications. If you're listening, I am rooting for you, and you're already on your way to financial freedom. Cheers and happy hunting. Today we have Hardeep Phul, Dr. Hardeep Phul, I should say. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Tejas. Amazing to be here and talk to you.
For sure. We have a lot to get into, and I love having physicians on my program. I've had a couple attorneys and different, I would say, high net worth professionals that have a little bit more accountability in their profession. I mean, you're dealing with people's health, and it's a good thing because we've seen physicians over how many years now save the world, COVID, everything that we made it through. But one thing is the way that the physician world relates to real estate is financial freedom and kind of taking a little bit easier in your job. I definitely want to talk about all this, but first, tell me about yourself, how you got here, and what we're going to talk about.
Well, I'm a director of an oncology program in San Diego. I've been everywhere. I grew up in Tucson, Arizona. I went to medical school in Cleveland at a really unique physician scientist program. And there was a financial decision there, which we can talk about, medical school debt. I was fortunate. Our school had an incredible endowment from Norma Lerner, who's the owner of the Cleveland Browns. So we got, a full tuition scholarship. I mean, that makes huge differences in career trajectories.
Absolutely.
And then I pursued training with research and also decided finally on oncology in San Diego, having gone through Scripps and UCSD and other places. Now I'm at Palomar Health, living my best life and doing exactly what I was meant to do. But it was a bumpy journey, and we'll talk about journeys and how I tell mentees all the time, it's not going to be what you expect, but what happens will be greater than you'll ever imagine if you just let it happen.
That's great. So take me to how you started at an early age and, in the physician world, you were like, I know I need to do something to supplement and change my future.
Absolutely. I mean, Tejas, I was reading your posts. I loved what you wrote about. You had a bullpen moment at one point. You were in a call room doing 50,000 cold calls in a year. You
Exactly.
were helpless.
That was my first year in real estate. I was flying blind, had to figure it out.
We all fly blind. We all are there at one point. You said something about how you didn't see your kids for 2 years. You were in hell. And you said something about, it really spoke to me. You said, start now, master your foundation, and stay fully absorbed in the process.
Thank you so much. That's exactly what I wrote. Thank you.
I copy pasted that because I was so moved by that. That's exactly what happened to me. And it's humble beginnings that lead to the best outcomes. Yours was a bullpen moment. Mine was a call room, completely exhausted after being, I think, awake for 24 or 36 hours. I had just had my newborn in my intern year of training, which is the hardest year. You feel like an indentured servant the whole time. And I remember I said, I'm going to quit. I can't do this. There's something easier out there. My friends have jobs. What am I doing here? I've spent this many years getting a medical degree for what? What's my easiest out? Should I just graduate and just do something easy, be a consultant or nothing wrong with that. But what can I do to get out of this? And it was helpless. It was broken down. But I'll say this, people lifted me up and it was the right mentors. And it was also realizing, oh my gosh, I am talent. And medicine is one of these things where it's a big opportunity cost and a huge opportunity gain that will pay itself over dozens of times if you let it and do it the right way. It's this thing called Maslow's triangle. You ever heard of this, or Maslow's needs from Abraham Maslow, the psychologist? He says you have to
Please.
first meet your basic needs like food and water. And for me, it was like providing for my newborn child and barely making 30,000 a year at the time, barely affording rent in San Diego, nonetheless. So it was, that stage makes the best out of people, just like you were in that bullpen. You have no option but to succeed. You cannot fail and let people down. But more than just abstract things, what I think really helped me is recognizing that after 1 year of training, any junior doctor is actually licensed in any state that they're practicing in after they take the exam. This is without the full residency training. And you're actually very marketable as a licensed physician, even during training. You can moonlight and you can do gigs on the side gigs, consulting. And I was just very fortunate to find the right opportunities to moonlight at various facilities. It helped me learn actually more than just my training, because you learn on the job, but it also provided income, and that helped me save. And that really is the stepping stone right there in that moment. That ability to do that is what changed my whole career trajectory.
I love your explanation here. So then you were like, all right, I got to do something with this money and I'm going to put it in real estate. And you had to go down that road. And it's a very scary road because it's not exactly in your field. Although my father's a physician, and I think
Yeah.
physician businessmen are the sharpest people on the planet. But there's not that many physicians that are smart with money and that are good businessmen. And then there's not that many businessmen that become physicians. So the combination is great. You took that jump, and then tell us what properties, what you did, how you changed your trajectory.
Well, the number one thing I tell people, and there's 5 steps I tell them. The first part was accumulate wealth. So you save, you find ways to use your talents, which we have plenty of, to be able to gain wealth. Because now when you have wealth, you can't just let it sit there. It won't really grow. You shouldn't buy liabilities. You invest in assets, of which real estate is a really good one. You also invest in yourself. At the same time, for doctors, you have debt, right? So you have good debt and bad debt. There's loans from medical school, which will pay themselves over. There's loans from mortgages, which, again, are a good debt. I think the key in this phase, Tejas, just like yourself, you're a professional, you know what you're doing. At the time that I was doing this, I was learning on my own and very busy, 80-hour work weeks. I needed a professional to help me. It actually ended up being a tax advisor who helped me the most, because they helped me see what I'm losing, what I'm paying that I'm never recouping, that I could make millions of dollars a year, but most of it will be going to tax, and how I can shelter that, how I can save that, and how investments like real estate are a way to offset that.
Thanks for saying that. Yeah, a lot of what happens with your and folks that make, or accredited investors, I'll say, that make over X amount of dollars is just not losing the money that you're making. It's just you're bleeding all the time by not having tax vehicles. So continue, sorry.
Oh, absolutely. And then it's realizing you're a consumer. And it's very easy for physicians to be taken advantage of, whether it's from financial advisors, banks, lenders. I went to about 6 or 7 banks. Half of them turned me away, believe it or not. There was a few, let's just call them sharks on websites, who gladly took me in, but I realized they were actually providing a product that was more expensive and not in my best interest. So what I did then is I said, I'm a consumer, I'm talented, I have incredible growth opportunity. This is a very low risk investment for any banker to put in me. And physician loans, as you know, have been around for a long time. These are, 10% down usually, sometimes higher interest rates, sometimes longer payments, bigger payments. But that was the key.
Physicians.
Exactly. Only open to physicians. So I was lucky to use that. There are professional loan agencies for a lot of different professions. For physicians, it's like a 10% down, I believe up to $1 million, which sounds like a lot, but in San Diego, that's barely cracking the market. So the key was finding a property I could afford in a good school and neighborhood, because I knew my family would have to live there and go to a good school, and also one that would gain equity fast. So I was very lucky. I found an incredible neighborhood in Torrey Hills near La Jolla and Del Mar, but not on the ocean, not so expensive that it was tourist and crazy prices. It was a good suburb at the right place. And what a good decision, because it grew, it doubled in price in like 5 years. But again, going back to that competition, letting banks and other people compete for you, knowing that you're the talent in the room. I actually got an incredible bank. I mean, it was US Bank, a common, well-known bank, compete for me, and they matched the best rate out there and the best product that I even found on an email. This banker was pro physician. He realized I'm a very low risk. He put me through his underwriting department, and I was kind of borderline on assets because it's not just making the down payment, Tejas. I mean, I think I made like a $85,000 down payment. That sounds like a lot, but you have to have like $100K in reserve. So you have to move around assets and show that you're not a liability in multiple ways. This banker was able to help me through underwriting learn how to present myself, and he presented myself. He was an advocate. That one decision alone, right there, that rigor I did in letting people compete and choosing the right product, being a consumer, being patient, and buying that first home is what triggered me to be able to get more properties. So it's that first decision, and it's that first risk.
And another big thing is building a team. There's people who listen to the show
Yep.
they don't own real estate. They keep listening. I keep saying you just got to do something. Get in the
Yep.
right bucket, but get a team that you trust, and that is probably the hardest part of the business. So, I mean, it's great that you're sharing. You had to go through that stuff, and then you finally hit it. And then that banker also wants to build a relationship with a good borrower that is going to repeatedly use him. So kudos all the way around. Keep going.
Absolutely. And then, so of course, as soon as you own a house, you then realize the next biggest topic and concept. And I call that risk mitigation. You now own property. Yeah, you've made it. Yeah, you kind of have, but what's your greatest ability? It's not just your money, your asset. Anything can happen. You can have an earthquake tomorrow and lose everything. It's your ability to keep earning and keep working, your ability to live, and your ability also to risk mitigate. So insurance becomes a huge next common decision. Not only having enough life insurance for you and your family. I had 2 children at this point when I bought that house. Disability insurance. You're way more likely to get disabled than you are to die. And it's way more expensive to get disabled or to pay for disability insurance.
Right.
So again, you have to have the right broker. You have to be in good health. So doing it earlier in your career where you can get the best rates,
Right.
the best lab values, the best weight, when you're the least obese, let's say, on your training journey.
The healthiest in your life.
Exactly, the healthiest. Now, they can't cover you for, your future salary, but at least get in the door because you can add on supplemental coverage. Beyond that, of course, there's car, auto, home insurance. But what no one learns about is umbrella insurance. Protect your entire portfolio with an umbrella policy in a trust. So now your assets are in a trust. So if anyone goes after you because you have a car accident, not just malpractice, but you have a car accident and they realize you're a physician, they're going to go after everything. Now you have everything in a family trust with an umbrella policy. And if anything happens to you, you protect your family and your ability to work. Even within the disability insurance world, there are gimmicks and there are cheaters. I was able to get lucky, again, shopping around, realizing you can be disabled and still work as a physician doing different things. Most policies will tell you you can't work ever again, but certain policies says you can do other occupations where you still use your talents and it will not offset the disability payment to you.
Wow.
So these are things you don't think about till you meet the right advisors who tell you this and say, this is what we're going to do because I've done this before and I'm an advocate for you and for other physicians like you. So you see, you make your own board of members, like your tax advisor, financial advisor, insurance advisor, broker. You have to have that. You're like the CEO of your own company, and you have these board members who are helping you. That's something I took a long time to learn.
Such a good way to put it. People think you have to own a company to have all these things, but you are the executive. Like
That's right.
You're the person that everyone should protect. And frankly, in the world of capitalism, all those people are getting paid, and they're getting referrals, and the fact their fiduciary duty, like me as a fund manager, is to protect people. So when you get the right trust factor, they don't let you go, right? And you don't let them go, I bet.
That's right. A relationship forms. And I kept talking about, relationships earlier on, but partnerships and who you surround yourself with is who you become. You want to surround yourself with people who are hungry, who will not take no for an answer, who are like you and on a growth journey and are in it to not just gain money and gain your business, but to grow, to make an impact on this world that didn't exist before they existed. So that's not just your advisors, but your friends, who you
Mhm.
choose to hang out with, what they talk about, what they do with their life, with their time. Are they buying fancy cars? Are they investing for the future? What is it that they talk about on a daily basis? And then ultimately, your best partnership is your spouse. How many physicians have we seen or friends have we seen where a divorce, let's say, leads to probably the biggest financial ruin and decision in your
Right.
lifetime? Partnerships are key, relationships are key. Trust, right? It all comes down to trust.
You said it was 5 steps, so we went through 1,
Yeah.
2,
I'll
3.
do 4 with you next.
Okay. Oh, no, I love this. Please keep going. It's great.
The 5 steps are: number 1, accumulate capital. Number 2, invest in assets. Number 3, we just talked about, is risk mitigation. Now, 4 and 5 I'll cover as number 4, unapologetic growth, and 5, don't forget to refocus on what money can't buy.
Oh, love it. Love it.
So this is something I tell every trainee because I went through this, and I want them to know that it's possible
When
and
you say
that you
trainee,
don't have.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
Oh,
When you say trainee,
yeah.
you're talking about a physician. You're not you're not
Typically, yes.
Yeah,
Typically.
you're not training a plumber or an engineer or, just a lawyer. It's mainly like you're talking to doctors who are younger, who are trying to make
Yes.
long-term decisions.
Typically, that's the field I'm in. That's the people I interact with. But let me say, I've learned so much from doctors, plumbers, engineers, dentists.
Yeah.
Like I said, surround yourself by
Yeah,
people
I
who
should
are
say there's
hungry.
plumbers that make more than half a million a year. I'm not
Absolutely.
mocking anybody. I'm just
Absolutely.
identifying it's doctors though. It's maybe interns, like who are those people that you're communicating with exactly?
It's the undergraduate studying for their MCAT to get into med school. It's the medical
Wow.
student frustrated about what I'm going to do with my life, with all this debt, and where am I going. It's the resident who's working 80-hour work weeks, exhausted, not knowing the end in sight, kind of an indentured servant to the hospital, feeling burned out. And it's even the physician fresh out of training, their first job, junior doctor, or even beyond, who's never really got empowered, took the job, signed a contract, never looked it over, are stuck in a job where they don't call the terms, where they're being told, you're burned out. Here's some wellness yoga retreats.
I
I see it all the time, Tejas, all the time.
Please talk
Um,
about that because we don't physicians don't talk about burnout as much as they should. And as a son of a physician who I mean, something I tell people something that people never know is I grew up with that phone going off all the time. I'm in my 40s, so, like, my father would get calls, and I would hear him, like, begrudgingly wake up, and he was in the room next to me, and I would hear him, like, make, the emergency room, like, decisions and this, and it's my patient, and, I mean, it's so intense. My dad still works. He's 67 years old. But I
wow,
see
praise
that's
them.
why I love representing I don't wanna say just doctors, but high net worth earners that are
Mhm.
just killing themselves for their clients and their legacy, and so I'm sorry I'm going so
No,
long on this, but
this is
but the
wonderful.
medical profession has sucked out the juice of all these doctors, and that's why real estate and what you're talking about is so important. There are doctors, and we'll say Indian physicians, their whole life, they're like, "I gotta be a doctor, I gotta be a doctor, I gotta be a doctor," and then they're like, "What did I do?" And then
Yeah.
they're looking. So, can you just talk about the burnout a little
Oh,
bit
yes.
and that part?
Yes, it's part of unapologetic growth. Remember, I said unapologetic. Don't apologize for the talent you have. Your father, and my mom's a nurse. She was an oncology nurse. She inspired me. And she's not a
Right.
doctor, but she inspired me by what she does. Doctors, nurses, healthcare workers, they're incredibly compassionate people following a calling. Ask a doctor about their calling and how they got into medicine. You'll hear a similar theme each time: to help people, to relieve suffering, because it's a noble thing to do, because I can't imagine doing anything else. We've unfortunately went too far to the other side where we incriminate doctors, look at the bad side, say, oh, they're all in it for the money. Oh, they don't spend time. Some of them commit crimes. 99.9% of the time, your doctor is an amazing human being who puts their words into action. Not only do they say it's my calling, they spend sometimes 2 decades of education to get to where they are. Talk about delayed gratification, right? I
Mhm.
can't think of any more delayed than that.
3
They're
decades,
invest
maybe, like, I mean, almost 32 sometimes folks are getting out into the real world.
I mean, it's 4 years of undergrad. If you think about going to a really competitive high school to get into a good undergrad, that's 4 years of a prep high school. I did a 5-year med school. Some people do an MD, PhD, that's 7 years. Residency of usually the common type in the general field is 3 to 5 years,
No
and
matter what.
subspecialty training is one
Yeah.
to 3 years. Yeah,
So no matter what, that residency, like you have to do that, and then you're going into your next piece of
sure.
it. Wait, how many years did you that's for almost 35 years there.
Yes, I would say my journey is about 16. I did a lot of research on the way. So that's the other thing. Doctors are scientists. They're trying to find out the best new knowledge and new drugs and new cures. They're doing it because they love knowledge, they love contributing to society, and they're taking care of patients. So these are industrious people. These are ethical and compassionate people willing to do almost anything to relieve suffering and advocate for patients. But guess what? These traits make doctors very vulnerable and easy to take advantage of. A mentor once told me it's called sanctimonious servitude, where doctors are so sanctimonious on their mission, their Hippocratic oath, they'll do anything to make it work. Whether they have to sit for hours after work to write these long, arbitrary,
Oh,
notes and go into the EHR and do tasks and all these things they're told to do, they say, yeah, sure, yeah, I'll do anything you need. Sure, whatever, what helps the patient. Okay, you want me to make a phone call because the insurance denied my what I wanted to do because it's evidence based? No problem. I'll call the insurance on my own lunchtime. We just get it done. And so we get the words burnout thrown at us. And I'll be honest with you, that is one of the most contrived, forced initiatives ever used, burnout. Because what it's doing is it's gaslighting you. It's throwing everything on you. Sorry, you're burned out. I'm sorry
right.
you can't handle this. Oh, let's give you a retreat. You know what? You need to do these modules online. It's about 5 hours of modules. Do them on a weekend. You'll feel great. Yeah, you
Right.
can.
It'll
We'll have
fix you.
yoga afterwards. Yeah, we'll send you some lemonade. Make lemonade out of the lemons. But physicians are starting to fight back and redefine the real term here. The real term is moral injury.
Mm.
Moral injury is a wartime term for soldiers who saw terrible atrocities and they couldn't reconcile what they saw and what they were doing with their beliefs and values. So for doctors, that's choosing between their own personal spiritual wellness needs and providing high quality health care. And it's an impossible venture. You can't do it the way the system is built right now. But the more and more we use that term, moral injury, I think the more and more physicians will get advocated for.
Love that. I love that. I love that, and I love that but you're saying it right because even with the physician burnout, there is an insurance purpose, right? Like what you're saying is, cause and effect. But what you're saying, like the band-aid is that's just going to keep being the band-aid. It's like the hamster on the wheel. You can't really get off of this right now unless you get out of that system. And that's what you're doing. That's how you reach the financial freedom. You kind of have to keep on that hamster wheel, but suck out the money and then be able to get off of it. But it takes 10, 15 years, maybe,
That's
right?
correct. Yep,
If you
yeah,
plan
that
it
is
right.
correct. And so it's a journey. You have to be on that journey. Obviously, you have to be willing to delay gratification. And I think most physicians are not looking for that Ferrari at the end of the training. I think they're exhausted. They're trying to pay back student loans, which are now growing into the 300,000-400,000 range at an interest of 6 or 7%. That's like a mini mortgage. It's like you're getting there too late. And my biggest opportunity cost was, in my mid 30s, finally finishing all of that education and looking back at my high school friends and other friends I finally connected with after a decade or two, going to reunions and realizing, oh my gosh, you guys have been in the workforce for 15 years. You have a retirement plan. You're going to retire by 50, some of you. And I'm thinking to myself, when am I going to catch up to these people? And I remember reading these articles about opportunity cost, and it said something like medical doctors catch up to teachers or dentists or lawyers in their 50s with a normal, let's say, income stream and not investing. I thought to myself, man, I'm gonna pay catch up and these guys will be retired and I'm just finally breaking even. Of course, it's more than just the money, but when that hits you, you start thinking, I got to do something different, not to catch up, but what am I worth? What am I worth? And that's really what this theme, unapologetic growth, number 4. What I really mean is, obviously, we've been patient, on our journey. I think luck is where preparation meets opportunity. And you have to be ready for that opportunity at all times. But growth also for physicians is seeing yourself as more than just an employee or a doctor. See yourself as a valuable contract. Think of yourself as an athlete. Think of yourself as having an agent who advocates for you.
Or like
I
a
have a lawyer.
soldier. You guys are up for 30 hours. I mean, not
That's
not
right.
I don't know any other professions that are doing that on a regular basis.
You have to see what you're worth and go out and get what you're worth.
Mhm.
Why don't we have talent agents advocating contracts for us? Anytime I go in to look at a job opportunity or consulting opportunity, remember my board members that I have a board member who is a lawyer who does physician contracts, and they know how to look through that and tell me I'm getting a good deal or a bad deal or pass on this one. This isn't worth your time. Why don't we all do that? It's cost a little more money and time, but I'll quote this athlete. I don't know if you watch NFL football or back in the day, but
Definitely.
Chad Ochocinco. Do you remember him?
Of
Um,
course.
yeah, he had an interview recently with Shannon Sharp. I think on the NFL Network, and he was talking about how he saved so much during his career, unlike a lot of his colleagues. But he said, and this stuck with me. He said, when your name becomes bigger than anything you can buy, that's your value.
Hmm.
Why don't we see ourselves as value? We are incredibly instrumental and necessary. Without us, there's going to be a physician shortage, or hospitals won't run, patients won't get
People
care,
will die.
people
That's
will die. So we should know what we're worth, get what we're worth, and know how to negotiate and change the terms a little bit. Not just sign what we're given, but say, that doesn't work for me. Thank you for the offer. And have another hospital compete for you, just like the mortgage agencies competed for me.
and the banks,
There's
yeah,
so much
totally.
talent.
Hey, we got a few minutes left. I got to switch gears a little bit with specific on real estate. You said something before we started. You could retire if you sold your real estate. Can you tell me what that means? Now we're at like the end of like, okay, you could retire.
Sure thing. I mean, in San Diego, we're very fortunate. And of course, there's the economic boom and there's the post-COVID era and high interest rates. So it's boosting the prices up quite a bit. But whenever you own even two pieces of good property near the ocean and you're in the right market, it's worth a lot. And for me, it's all about asset protection. I talked about risk mitigation because that could wipe it away in an hour if there was an earthquake or something. But yes, if I were to sell my assets and sell my homes for what they're worth right now, it would be worth enough to live very comfortably. Would I sustain the same level of my life that I'm now? Probably not. But that whole FIRE, financial independence, retire early, I could achieve that. Many doctors are into that, where they save just enough and live off the interest, or take 3 to 4% off a year, and it lasts forever with the interest and investments. I could, but again, topic number
Well, why
five. If
not?
not,
Go
why not?
right into it. Why not?
Yeah.
Why not for you?
For me, it's all about number five. Don't forget to refocus on what money can't buy. And don't forget the investment put in you. So much got put in me to get to me where I am. All the mentors, all the education. And it's not just about gaining more wealth. It's about spreading the talent and wealth and the knowledge I've been given and the gifts I've been given to give a lasting legacy to the world. In the end of the day, Tejas, I didn't see my kids for years. Now I see them all the time. But I teach them all the time that with money, you can buy a clock, but you cannot buy time. There's an incredible opportunity cost, but it's an incredible opportunity, and it's
Mhm.
worth it. Don't forget what you focus on. Don't forget the family and the legacy you leave behind. But at the same time, all the skills you learned along the way, those are valuable. No one else possesses those. Give your gift to the world. That is the best legacy you'll have. Me retiring right now, Tejas, it'll be a good legacy, but it's not good enough for me.
You got too much to do.
I've
Way
got
too much.
too much to do.
And you got your girls too. Here, last thing, motivation. I don't normally say this, but I like people that have children. I have now, the people that I get along with the most are happily married men that have at least one child and they, remotely like their job. But those are guys we don't waste time on lunches and dinners. We're like down to the business. Tell me about your family life, how you get to spend time with your kids and how that helped you.
I have two beautiful girls and a lovely wife, and they love horse riding. We go to the beach. They like to play sports. Flag football is a big thing here. Friday Night Lights flag football, and the girls are the fiercest team, so it's
Yeah.
always fun to watch.
How old are
And
they?
they're 10 and 12. They're growing up. They're being powerful women, thanks to my wife. I mean, I forgot. I didn't mention enough, But how, remember I said about partnership and picking the right spouse? Do you think I'd be where I am without my wife, without her
way.
making all the sacrifices? I'm kind of getting emotional thinking about this, but all the times I wanted to quit and she didn't let me because she said,
Yeah.
you got your daughter to provide for. And so when you think like that way, you realize you owe it to them to be the best version of yourself. It's not just about you.
Yeah. I love it. Hardeep, I'm sorry we got to get cooking, but you are wonderful. I'm excited for this interview to come out. I think it's going to help a lot of the folks that kind of need a boost like that in the medical world. I do see the doctors like soldiers nowadays. Like you kind of you have to do it in a sense. And like the people that have to do it, they see it no other way. I'm so happy you mentioned that. How does somebody get a hold of you, or how do they grab you for mentorship or any of this advice?
They already do plenty on LinkedIn. I get people from all around the world asking me, how can you help me? Can you look at my personal statement? What am I doing wrong? Can you help me get a job? I do everything I can. I can't help everyone, but those things mean a lot to me. So social media has obviously changed how we interact with the world.
Yeah.
Definitely. But
Yeah,
check us
I
out.
love it. You're super active on LinkedIn. I love seeing your stuff. Everything's in the show notes to get a hold of the doc. And thank you again for being here.
Thanks, Tejas. This is wonderful. Let's do it again one day.
For sure. It's Real Estate Investor MBA. I'm Tejas. That's Dr. Hardeep. We love you guys. Cheers.